And by accident, I got a hole-in-one with a score of, I think, 130. I don't know if you're familiar with the scoring, but it is not a good score. But anyway, I have this plaque, and I am very proud that I am just a beginner and I have it. The best part of being a Paulinian was receiving the unique discipline, education, and training provided by the Sisters of St. Paul. Now, this brand of discipline reinforced the values that were taught by my parents and reshaped my character into what it is today. Being a Paulinian has also helped me stay in the right path through the years. On my Paulinian memories, I was an intern for 8 years, from high school to college, under the watchful eyes of the Sisters of St. Paul. So from that time, I fully understood what discipline really meant.
Among the 5 Paulinian core values that was instilled in you throughout your Paulinian education, which one would you want your children to possess?
The value of charity. Actually, my daughter studied at St. Paul College, Pasig. And it was during that time that the value of charity was inculcated in her. Now, it's also very fortunate that my son did not have a difficult time having this value of charity inculcated also in him. Now, I'm happy that my children grew up showing compassion and consideration towards the underprivileged. They're generous, willing to share, and most of all, they are not consumed by the power of money.
If you weren't a judge right now, or if you were Justice Perlas-Bernabe right now, where would you have been?
I joined the judiciary in 1996, and I was then a senior partner of my own law firm. So probably I would have been in private practice if I were not a judge now. And probably also I would have joined my husband manage our business. But if the question is, if I did not enter the legal profession, what would I have been? Then my answer would be, I would have been a doctor, because that was my first love.
What made you take up law instead of med?
The encouragement and guidance of my parents, who were both lawyers, and my older brother, who is a lawyer too. Apart from the available law books and resources at home, stirred my interest in entering the legal profession. But what finally convinced me was my desire to join my then boyfriend, now my husband, who was enrolled at the Ateneo Law School at the time. So you could say that love inspired me to enter the legal profession.
So who is Associate Justice Perlas-Bernabe outside the court?
Stripped of judicial cloak, I am just a devoted wife, a loving mother, and a business partner to my husband. While I am the queen of the Bernabe household, I'm no longer the boss at home. And among my friends and relatives, I'm simply Telly.
How many children do you have?
I have 2, and they are both lawyers. So there are 4 lawyers in the family. My husband is a lawyer, I'm a lawyer, and my 2 children are both lawyers.
Did you also encourage them to take up law, or was it their own decision to take up?
No, it was their own decision. I never encouraged them. to take up law. I told them whatever profession you should take, it should be your love and interest.
What were the most unforgettable challenges you had to face as a judge and on your road to be a judge?
I cannot think of a single unforgettable challenge. No, all judges, they face the same reality that for every case decided, a party wins and another party loses. But I can speak for a lot of judges when I say that it is not easy to decide the fate of a person's life, liberty, and property, because judges are also human and they are not infallible. Now, what makes it more difficult is that I am now a Supreme Court Justice, where the cases brought before us involve issues that are of transcendental importance and of political significance. Now, on my road to becoming a judge, I am very thankful that I was appointed by 4 different presidents and without any political color.
As a woman, how do you deal with bullies or retractors in the government sector or critics of your work?
Well, thankfully, I'm not sensitive to criticism. And probably this is because in my heart, I always give my best effort and strive to do what is right in every case I decide. Well, at the end of the day, I go to bed with a clear conscience, and that is what is important. Now, with respect to bullies, I've not had the misfortune of crossing their paths. And probably it also helps that I am in a circle where people think that I am somebody who cannot be influenced by money, intimidation, or threats. Now, so far, nobody has dared bully me. And I hope and I pray that nobody ever will.
How did you deal with instances where you had to bend your principles for your profession? And how did being a Paulinian help you live an ethical life despite these circumstances?
Well, it's not really a question of bending principles, because that would mean deviating from what is right and from what is legal, which cannot be done. Because when a judge applies the law, he does so without regard to moral and personal persuasions. And it is these moral and personal persuasions that could be set aside or sacrificed in order to apply the law as it is. Well, for example, in a criminal case, even if I'm convinced that the accused should be convicted, if the evidence of the prosecution do not satisfy the quantum of proof beyond reasonable doubt, then I have to acquit. Or in a case for annulment of marriage, even if my religion teaches that what God has put together, no man can separate, but if the other party can prove the psychological incapacity of his or her spouse, then he or she is entitled by law to an annulment of marriage. Now, with respect to how I was able to live an ethical life, being a Paulinian has enabled me to live an ethical life. You know, my values are deeply ingrained in me, and they are the standards by which I measure my actions. And these values serve as shield to protect me from temptation or from intentional harm. And this is also the reason why I go about my judicial duties without guilt and without fear.
As a living proof of a holistic Paulinian education, would you still encourage the millennials to enter the university despite the trend among students who view best education as limited to the big four universities out there. So what would you say to these millennials who believe that the best education and success can only be found in these universities?
Very good and difficult question. But I think the millennials should redefine what best education really is. Because best education is not limited to the acquisition of skills and mental acuity. And it should not be equated with the ability to attract lucrative jobs after graduation, which the millennials believe only the four universities would provide. That is not true. No, I think you have to view best education as holistic, with the same emphasis on values formation as academic preparation. You know, when millennials study at St. Paul, they can become productive citizens or effective agents for world transformation. And their success will not be measured by material gain, but how they have made the world a better place to live in.
What advice would you give to Paulinians who aspire to create significant changes to leave a mark in this country?
You just look up to St. Paul for inspiration. The Bible scholars say that described him rather as tireless and an indomitable worker. And in fact, I think he has worked hard to fulfill his mission of spreading the good news of Jesus Christ. And Paulinians, you need not be great or occupy high positions in your chosen field of profession to be able to create a mark in the country. For as long as you work tirelessly and with the same indomitable spirit as St. Paul, you will achieve your aspirations in life, and this in itself is a lasting legacy which you will leave for your children and grandchildren.